Professor Emmanuel Jemabwedi is a co-founder of Afrobarometer, a pioneering initiative that has completely transformed the landscape of public opinion research across the African continent. From 2008 to 2021, he served as its chief executive, steering it to global prominence as one of the leading sources of data on African governance, democracy, and development.
Thank you very much, Madam Elam. Your exaggerated descriptions of me, I'm sitting here but couldn't recognize myself in all that you say. But it's always, for somebody like me, just at the beginning of my 70s, it is a great privilege. It's always an honor. It's an opportunity to be associated with anything that the new generation does. Because I am certainly far from that generation. And it's always nice to be able to hang out with all of you and to basically learn from you, drink from your fountain of insights and wisdom. So it's great to be here. Of course, the subject matter, the agenda for today's discourse is of key importance to me for many reasons. But for lack of time, let me just say that first, as we've been saying over and over again, that the Constitution we have simply over-centralizes power, it over-concentrates power in the hands of the president and the presidency and the executive, and basically trashes all the other provisions that are there for our institutions and our processes of government and governance to challenge and to checkmate. The Constitution also, at the very least, has created a needlessly expensive government, especially by saddling the country with all manner of institutions of state whose utility are, to say the least, dubious. And I'm sure all of you can name institutions within the Constitution whose disappearance we will not notice at all. Then also, it is a Constitution that leaves important democratic values such as, and practices such as inclusion, moderation, tolerance, only as an option and something that leaders and institutions may voluntarily comply with.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I'll be presenting today Democracy Hub's statement on a case for a new constitution. I would like to begin this statement from a rather unusual place, a movie. A religious movie, and I hope that you'll bear me out. A few days ago, I watched the screening of a movie called The Conclave. It was about the selection of a new pope and the conclave of cardinals that had been summoned to elect the new pope. Now, every conclave which is summoned is led by a dean of the College of Cardinals. And on the eve of the elections, the dean stood before his colleagues and gave a speech of his own. A speech that struck quite a chord with me. Permit me to share some of the words from that speech with you this evening. He begins, "Dear brothers in Christ, at the moment of great uncertainty in the history of the Holy Church, we must think first of the late Holy Father, whose brilliant pontificate was a gift from God. Now we must ask our Lord to send us a new Holy Father through the pastoral solicitude of the Cardinal Fathers. And we must pray to God for that loving assistance and ask Him to guide us to the right choice. But you all know that." And then he puts his nose aside and then says, "Let me speak from the heart for a moment. St. Paul said, 'Be subject to one another out of reverence for Christ.' To work together and to grow together, we must be tolerant. No one person or faction seeking to dominate another And speaking to the Ephesians, who were of course a mixture of Jews and Gentiles, Paul reminds us that God's gift to the church is its variety. It is variety, this diversity of people and views, which gives strength to our church. And over the course of many years, in the service of our mother, the church, let me tell you, there is one sin which I've come to fear above all others: certainty. Certainty is the great enemy of unity. Certainty is the deadly enemy of tolerance. Even Christ was not certain at the end. My God, why have you forsaken me? He cried out in his agony at the 9th hour on the cross. Our faith is a living thing precisely because it works hand in hand with doubt. If there was only certainty and no doubt, and there will be no mystery, and there will be no need for faith. Let us pray that God will grant us a pope who has doubts. And let him grant us a pope who sins and asks for forgiveness and who carries on. The journey towards this event has not been easy. Few topics provoke as much certainty and resistance as the Ghanaian constitution. From the very first, our call for a new constitution for a new generation was met with reactions ranging from disbelief to outright dismissal. The idea of constitutional change, not review, but change, feels almost like a taboo to some. The certainty with which this resistance is expressed has been in itself remarkable. If you survey this room, perhaps most would argue that discussing a new constitution is an unthinkable idea. But why? Is it truly unthinkable? Or have we simply stopped thinking about it? Today we ask you to make space for doubt, to imagine the possibility that what seems unchangeable might be reconsidered. Doubt is not weakness. It is the foundation of every meaningful dialogue, every great innovation. Our history as a people has only progressed when we have dared to question dogma and embrace the terrifying but liberating thought. What if we are wrong? Some 16 odd years ago, I joined the Constitution Review Commission as its youngest researcher. I was then 22 years old. We were a team of 6 researchers supported by 6 research assistants, with Professor Raymond Atuwe then doubling as Executive Secretary and Principal Researcher. It was an honor to be part of a process that sought to interrogate the governance framework of our country. And I carried a deep sense of purpose as we listened to countless Ghanaians express their views about the Constitution. Over those months, I witnessed firsthand the aspirations, the frustrations, and questions that people had about a document that was supposed to be the bedrock of our democracy. From rural farmers and countless unemployed young people to urban professionals, the message was often the same. The Constitution, though once a symbol of hope, had become increasingly disconnected from the lived realities of the people it was meant to serve. I saw the statement from the presidency that appoints a new commission, and it refers to the work of the Constitution Review Commission. But one of the things it doesn't refer to, surprisingly, is the white paper that followed that work. The white paper, as the kids called, I remember when the white paper dropped, my former colleagues from the Constitution Review Commission drew lots, and the lot fell on me as the youngest to prepare what we call the variance report, the distinction between the white paper and what the recommendations of the commission were. Out of the 478 recommendations, the white paper accepted 229 recommendations, rejected outright 55 of them, and changed 27 of them. The white paper did not comment on 167 of those recommendations, leaving the legal status in a bit of a limbo. Now, critically, most of the rejected recommendations related to constitutional provisions. I'll try to give you a flavor of some of the rejections, okay? 1, the Commission recommends that the Constitution be amended to include the basic principles of children's rights, that is, the best interest of the child, non-discrimination, right to life, survival and development, right to life, right to health, participation and sense of responsibility according to evolving capacities. The presidency rejected this. Somehow the 1992 Constitution is incompatible with children's rights. It was recommended that the National Development Plan be binding, which was what Ghanaians were calling overwhelmingly for, and be entrenched. Not accepted. It was said that every citizen would have the right to enforce a national development plan for the country. Not accepted. It was said that the National Development Planning Commission would be independent, professional, multi-partisan. Not accepted. It was said that it should reduce the number of presidential appointees to the Council of State. Not accepted. That the MMDCs in metropolitan area should be elected by direct suffrage. Not accepted. The Commission also recommended that Article 14.3 of the Constitution be amended to reduce the time beyond which a person may be detained before being brought to trial from 48 hours to 24 hours. Not accepted. After the white paper came in, the Constitution Review Commission, had recommended that we set up a Constitution Review Implementation Committee. We call it CRIC. And their job was to then implement, I guess, in substance, the white paper report. But then the Attorney General took a new position, that it would be unconstitutional to put all the proposed amendments into two separate bills. Instead, all the recommendations would have to be proposed and go through their own individual Chapter 25 process, separate and individual bills. There was also some confusion whether there was the need for one single referendum for all the provisions, amending the entrenched provisions, or for every question deserved its own referendum. Then there was also Parliament. Of course, Parliament. I remember during the Commission's time, when Parliament was consulted about the review, they wanted two things. One, make sure that dual citizens do not contest for MPs. Two, make sure that MPs can get appointed as ministers and don't touch anything else in the Constitution. Parliament, for its part, insisted that for all the entrenched and non-entrenched amendment bills, that they had the constitutional power to make changes to them when they were laid before Parliament. These questions continue to remain unsettled, and I trust that they will continue to haunt the process as we go forward.
Listen. Listen to the rhythm that does not change. The stagnant thrum of power. A tethered drum beating to the same tired hand. This is not the melody of progress. It is the heavy drone of power gone stale. Ago. It clings to the skin of nations like dust after the dry season. Imagine a village where the river no longer flows, where water pools thick, stagnant, breeding diseases while life would have danced there. Ago. Do you see it? This is what happens when power sits for too long. When one man's shadow stretches across generations until it blots out the sun. In a distant field, an elder sharpens his machete under a baobab tree. His hands are calloused. His face is worn with the lines of a story which he cannot tell. Do you see this earth? He asks. If you do not let it rest, if you do not plant something new, it will not turn what it's supposed to turn, and it will turn to stone beneath you. Ago. But the so-called leaders do not listen, and they forget that leadership is not about them and what they want. They say the soil belongs to me. This soil is mine. They say my roots are deeper than the trees. Ago. And so the seasons remain the same. Dry, dry, and dry again.
Right, so we will just get right into it. First of all, I want to invite the panelists here to share their initial thoughts. In just about 2 minutes, perhaps react to what we have heard from the chair and as well as Oliver and the Democracy Hub.
This points to the fact that a discussion about constitution cannot simply be about the constitution. And I think that's an important thing to say, especially in light of what Professor Jemma said in relation to the kind of volatile feelings about the legitimacy or the paramountcy of constitutions vis-a-vis other forms of rule, such as military rule and so on and so forth. We saw at Black Star Square when Mahama was being sworn in, the biggest cheer was for Ibrahim Traore, the Burkinabe leader with his controversial pistol in his side and so on and so forth. What that points to is that there's a sense in the sub-region and elsewhere in the world where people are questioning the fact that whatever we understand by the norms of liberal democracy simply facilitate the concentration of power, of wealth, and therefore the perpetuation of injustice and so on and so forth. From that point of view, I hope that the lesson that, the first review that Oliver was describing, the one from 2010 to 2011, is taken on board in our discussion. One of the lessons that stood out for me, Oliver's long list of lamentations about what was rejected and not rejected, the fact is that that debate was simply between the Commission and the government. No one else was involved. If today we're talking about a coalition, then it means that at least there's a sense that that debate, that conversation has to take its sources from beyond simply the specialized arenas and haloed corridors of those kinds of things. And when we come to that, hopefully I don't know how many minutes is left for a discussion, but those will be critical because we are in a far more of a deeper crisis than any of the comments that have been made here tonight begin to reflect. And it will be important to situate our discussion in that context.
The framers of the Constitution somehow trusted that we're going to have good leaders. I would say that a good Constitution in the hands of bad men will fail. That is what we've had. We've had good Constitution, what I still think is fundamentally okay. The problem is that we've had it in the hands of people with the wrong incentives. They are not in public service to serve. These are people who have come into public service with a private investment mindset. Unfortunately, we have a constitution which... Unfortunately, we have a system which is also structured in a way to incentivize that process. For example, we just finished an election. Do you know who funded the contestants? Do we know who funded the political parties? Now, if we don't care about the financiers, should we care about the corruption? We don't seem to realize that somehow there's a nexus, that people make political investment, and for every investor, there must be a return on investment. So for those who have invested in the recent election, they will soon line up for a return on investment. There are connections that we somehow don't realize. So to round up on this, lawyers don't do well speaking for short periods. But just to wrap up on this, I want you to recognize one thing. The Constitution contains problems. Some of the problems, in my opinion, require palliative response.
Welcome to the show. Thank you very much. And Apreku, we didn't discuss football, did we? Sorry, viewers, I was just talking to my producer about that. So I have a story from the Emirates Stadium at Arsenal where I'll be sharing with Andy. Ooh, and I didn't bring the jersey. Sorry about that. I'll be sharing with Andy Terry when he gets here. Now, though, we have a few issues to discuss. Very, very important. Have you been monitoring what's happening in Parliament? Good evening again and welcome to the show. We begin with the story we did on Thursday. We were talking about somebody who is a fugitive from justice about a high court ruling that has issued a bench warrant. We'll play that again. Then we have latest on the former Inspector General of Police, former IGP COP Dr. Dampare. We have something on him again. And I've heard a lot of comments about the stories that I did on Dampare last week, and I'll be commenting on the comments that have come to me as well. Good evening to you, Kweku Bako. Please inform him that I have mentioned his name on TV and that I apologize for not reaching out yesterday as I promised, and that tomorrow he will see me with the things that I said I will bring it. No, nothing, viewers, don't get worried. He just was telling me that he's unfortunate that I'm not giving him copies of my book. Because when I was writing the book, I was discussing with him. Every now and then I'll call him and check some facts and all of that. And we had long conversations when I was putting my book together. I was so embarrassed when he called me last week and said, but Paul, so you haven't brought me a copy of the book? I said, oh God, I'm bringing it. I said I was bringing it on Thursday, Friday, today is Tuesday, so tomorrow I'll take it. So please tell Kweku Bako that the books are coming. And then we'll continue with our conversations. Whatever we discussed on phone, we'll discuss it again. Everyone is sending me reports from the United States courts, where it is being widely reported that Anas Aremia Anas has won a stupendous and whooping millions of dollars defamation judgment against the indefatigable Kennedy Ejapon, the man who is lacing his boots to be president of Ghana. We're going to dig into that story big time and get you the details and everything. All right, it's 27 minutes past 9 o'clock on top of the hour. This is Good Evening Ghana. It's always feisty and it's going to be very feisty today. We have IGP, we have OSP, and we have privatization. Dr. Ismail Yamson said that ECG should be privatized. And a lot from the Economic Forum suggested and pointed President Mahama to the way of privatizing state-owned institutions. Is that an agenda? If it's an agenda, it's an ugly agenda. We'll get to that in some detail. Let's go back to the video that we presented to you last Thursday. That's first. Next, we're going to do a live update on Dr. Dampare. And then there's something on the OSP as well. On the OSP, we're going to give you a small bite of why the OSP is looking for Ken Ofori-Atta. The actual, real, non-legal, fully political, and enormously emotional and very personal reason why Kisia Jabe is looking for Ken Ofori-Atta. We've found it out and we'll tell you why. It has to do, as always with Kisi, it has to do with business. And it may have to do with money. It may have to do with money. We'll deal with it tonight on Good Evening Ghana. Now, though, let's go back to our touch screen. This is what we told you last Thursday. Fugitive from justice ran into Ghana, ran away. He ran into Ghana, ran away. We've been hearing a lot about that on the media anyway. I've been watching for the records, and we'll have a lot of time to talk about that. But let's look at these three important people. Now, it is about them that our side of the story is about. Everyone talks about somebody coming to Ghana, running away, fugitive from justice, but it's not really about him. It's about these men. Dr. Mani Boama is the Minister for Defense. Abdul Razak Osman is the National Security Coordinator. And Mubarak Muntaka is the Minister for Interior. Now, if we are going to build a country of laws, then these are the men that I'm worried about in the terms of the actions that they've taken for this fugitive from justice to run into Ghana, facilitated by these men, giving him national security protection, etc., etc. I'm going to tell you how damaging this is to the republic. You can take a political side. We all have political sides. But this is not about political sides. This is about the future of this enterprise called democracy with it attendant rule of law that we say that we are doing. And now we have people who have been elected into power by a landslide. Mani Boama appointed Minister for Defense by the president who won a landslide. Abdul Razak Usman appointed by the same president. And Mubarak Muntaka. And here they are. As it appears, they are violating a court order by bringing a fugitive from justice into Ghana and facilitating his movement around Ghana into Cape Coast near the stadium. Everything that you already know is true. Let's get to the story. All right. Now, we talked about this vehicle, isn't it? It's going to pop up. Yes. Vehicle number GE166017. It requires an RTI request, and we are going to follow up on that. We are not going to joke on some of these things because we have to build a republic. This vehicle is a national security vehicle. There's another one. Did I see another one? Yes, UE 55323. These are national security vehicles owned by you, the taxpayer, put at the disposal of a fugitive from justice. Who are we talking about? Who is the fugitive from justice? Let's go over to the High Court, where a Court of Appeal judge, sitting as an additional High Court judge, made this ruling. Very, very far-reaching ruling. It's as follows. In the Superior Court of Judicature in the High Court of Justice, Commercial Division, Accra, case number CR 904/17, the Republic versus Eugene Bafoboni, William Matthew Tetetevi, Nana Owusu Enso, Alhaji Salifu, Mimina Osman, and George Derek Opon. This is what the case says. Warrant for the arrest of Kevin Taylor. Now, this is what it says. Whereas the above named case is pending before the High Court, Accra. And whereas the court's attention has been drawn to a scandalous video circulating on social media in relation to this case, which video contains an extremely scandalous and prima facie contemptuous speech that scandalizes the judge, the court, and the whole administration of justice. And whereas the said scandalous video is purported to have been made by a scoundrel who styles himself as Kevin Taylor, who is not a party to this case, and the court, finding it necessary to invoke the powers invested in it under Article 1262 of the 1992 Constitution, 1992, to proceed against the said scoundrel, Kevin Taylor, for contempt. Now, therefore, the court orders the issuance of this arrest for the apprehension of the body of Kevin Taylor and for him to be produced before the court to answer to the question why he should not be committed to prison for making such contemptuous statements which are totally a fabrication by him in the said video. It is hereby further ordered that this warrant is directed at the Inspector General of Police, IGP, and the Ghana Police Service, the Bureau of National Investigations, BNI, now known as NIB, and the National Security to take appropriate steps for the apprehension and production of the said Kevin Taylor before the court. It is further ordered that this warrant remains in force until the said Kevin Taylor is arrested and shall lapse the day the said Kevin Taylor expires from the surface of the earth. Given under my hand and seal of the High Court of Justice, Commercial Division, Accra, this 16th day of January 2020, and is signed by Stephen Aforte, the registrar. It was given under the hand of Justice Che Bafo. Viewers, this is the story. A warrant of arrest served on somebody who is bastardizing the judiciary of Ghana, established under Article 138 of the Republican Constitution. So established that it has been such a backbone of Ghana's democracy since 1992. A fugitive from justice is one against whom a bench warrant has been issued. And the bench warrant was issued by the court. And it was served on the Ghana Police Service, the National Intelligence Bureau, NIB, and the National Security. Now, the men who oversee these things and those who were expected by the Republic to deliver the fugitive from justice are the same people who gave the guy protection to be in Ghana. Dr. Omani Boama, Minister for Defense, get ready, an RTI request is coming. Perhaps even a parliamentary question is coming. And perhaps also an allegation of contempt of court against all three men, if they were aware, unless they say they were not aware, but they were. Because this guy came to Ghana, as you have already heard, everything you heard is true, went to visit his parents near the stadium, and he was driven by some Eric guy. All of the data and information has been collected. Omani Boame's soldiers were protecting the guy against whom there is a bench warrant. He should come and tell us that he doesn't know anything about it. National Security Coordinator was aware, and the security people were protecting the guy against whom there's a court bench warrant because of politics of MPP and NDC. Is that how we want to build a country? Is that how we want to build a country? A person sits down and says anything at all. When the Muntie 3 says something, which is anything at all, on radio, you saw how they ended up. If I say something, which is anything at all, I'll be hauled before the courts. We have to do responsible broadcasting because we live in a certain democracy. If you do irresponsible broadcasting in this democracy, whether you're MPP or you're NDC, you have to find your way to the courts. We saw what happened to, was it Ken Crunchy? We saw it. We saw what happened with Ayikweotu and Co. in the court. We saw it. So we live in this democracy, and therefore we are restricted by the tenets of the democracy. Somebody lives abroad, and because he's doing politics, NDC, MPP, he says anything at all. And then a court warrant is issued by a court of appeal judge, sitting as an additional high court judge, serves on these institutions, and then defense minister will facilitate the arrival into Ghana, protect the person with national security, one against whom a bench warrant has been issued. That's the Ghana we want? Is that the Ghana we want? Is that the Ghana we want? So we are putting this out there. That's the bench warrant. You can go to the court and find it. That's it. That's the bench warrant. And somebody in the government, and I know him, I won't mention his name, very, very good man. He drew the attention of the government that, look, this thing you are doing is dangerous. Take the guy out. Let this guy leave. Somebody inside the government, he told them that, hey, what you are doing is very, very dangerous. Elected officials under a democracy, and you are doing this. That's what the person told them. If I have the person's permission, I'll mention his name, but I think it will take a while for me to give him that. It's too early. But he'll tell me. I asked him, he said, no, you can't mention my name. He told them that, hey, you bring this guy into town with national security protection. Quickly, Omani Boama was called. That the guy must leave the country now. So they shipped him out. He can't come back until he wants to face the court and explain why he should not be committed to contempt. The same question that was put before Mugabe, Akogun, Godwin and Mugabe and the group. Those we call them Muntie 3. That's the same question. The same question put before Ken Kranchi when he threatened the court one way or the other. Same question. Show why you should not be committed for contempt of court. This is a serious democratic republic. This democracy has elected J.J. Rawlings, it has elected John Kufuor, it has elected John Mahama, it has elected Akufo-Addo, it has elected Professor Mills, and we are not going to let the democracy slip away. And elected officials, important people, defense minister, should be the last people to undermine the authority of the judiciary. Should be the last people. These people here should be the last people to undermine the authority of the courts of Ghana. Minister for Defense, Omani Boama, Minister for Interior, Muntaka, and National Security Coordinator. This bench warrant has been served on you people. Everybody saw it, and then they allowed United Airlines to fly the fugitive from justice into Ghana and take him to Cape Coast to go and visit his parents. If this good man I'm talking about had not said it, that hey, you people stop that, they wouldn't have shit the guy out. Information suggests that the guy said he's looking for a political appointment, and when he gets that political appointment, he can get immunity. They discuss among themselves, and the good sounding voice I'm referring to told them that that is a absolutely no-go area. Send the guy back because there's a bench warrant against him. This is a democracy. Did I say more? Send me your messages on this one. What you think? All right, now we are in a fiery mood, isn't it? Send your text messages on the first story to Good Evening Ghana Official, and let's see what we got. Now, let's get onto the touch screen for the first time tonight, and welcome. Hey, Kissy, how are you? He's a good friend of mine, but there's a story that he's concerned about his life. I understand that he says that some people are trying to kill him or something like that. I mean, I've heard it, but I don't know. And there's some of those names that were mentioned. I asked them that, is it true that you're trying to kill Kissy? And they laughed. But the story is that from the OSP's angle, he says some people are trying to kill him. So there's a vehicle, a Land Cruiser, with some evidence or something that looks like evidence. They said the Land Cruiser has bullet holes in it, something like that. And that Kissy said he was in the Land Cruiser when some people tried to shoot at him. Some story that is developing like that we'll get some details on. But he's already alleged against 2 or 3 people who are his very close friends. Some he grew up with, some he went to school, studied in the same classroom with, high-profile officials of the government that just passed. And he's alleging that these persons are trying to kill him. But that's not the reason why we're here tonight. We're here tonight because the Good Evening Ghana program found its way into the OSP's document, some of the OSP's documents. And they describe Good Evening Ghana and what we said here in a certain way. So I'll share with you now. This is what the OSP wrote in the document. This is Good Evening Ghana. It's entitled Good Evening Ghana. He says, during a broadcast on Monday, 11th March, Good Evening Ghana program on Metro TV, host Paul Adumochiri alleged that an individual who was not an employee of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, but acted as a business associate of the Special Prosecutor, had addressed the staff of the OSP. Full stop. They don't quite say whether that is true or not, because we know that that is absolutely true. We know that is true. And we said that here. Somebody who is not a staff or listed as a staff, somebody who is over 60 years old, is not an investigator. He went to the OSP and because he has a very important relationship with the OSP boss, and he addressed the staff. And we said that here. They captured it in this document of theirs. And it says, he, Paul Adumochiri, raised concerns about whether the office was under the influence or control of a private individual. Yes, of course we did. And this in a nutshell what they said. So the OSP has been watching Good Evening Ghana, isn't it? And he says that he's forgotten that we have sent him an RTI. He doesn't know that we are going to follow up on that the elections and all of those things took a lot of our time. That now that the politics is over and we've come back to work, we're going to follow up on some of those things. And we are going to invoke the constitutional steps, what you need to do when you write an RTI and it has been ignored. And we know that after 1 year, it has been ignored. So we're going to pursue it. We're going to ask questions like this. Who is this person who works at the OSP? Why is he working there? What is he doing there? That's the question we're going to ask. So they say that during a broadcast on Monday, 11th March on Good Evening Ghana, host Paul Adumochi alleged that an individual who was not an employee of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, but acted as a business associate of the Special Prosecutor, had addressed the staff of the OSP. He raised concerns about whether the office was under the influence or control of a private business individual. Now, what did the individual tell the staff? He told the staff that they are watching them because some of them have been giving information to the new government and that some of them have become moles in the OSP office. So they are watching them. When Kisi Ajabin goes to work, he goes with at least 12 military men because he says that he's under attack. That attack, he hasn't said it publicly, but he's told friends of his that his gunshots have gone into his car, and he has named certain important individuals of the old government that they are responsible for it. As we build up the story, we'll tell you the names of these people with their permission because we've spoken to them and they all laugh at it. And they say, Paul, listen, Kisi is mad. And those are not my words. I don't think Kisi is mad. But that's what they told me. Kisi is mad. How can he think that I want to kill him? What is wrong with him? But this is what he said to some people. And so for those who had enough time to look at it, he showed them the Land Cruiser that has bulletproof. The Land Cruiser is parked at Roman Ridge, by the way. If you want to see it, you can go and see it. But this is what the OSP said. Now, we just want to place on record that whatever we do here about the OSP is not personal. It is so that the systems of Ghana will work well. Yes, we are right-wing, so we have a side on every political issue. I am not neutral. Even the Bible says, God says that he will spew you out of his mouth whether you are hot and if you are not hot and cold. But some people can be neutral. There's no problem. People can be neutral. People can be left. People can be right. I am right. Somebody is left. But we build it together. As I keep saying, my mentor is Kwesi Pratt Jr. He's left. Very, very left. I'm right. Very, very right. We argue all the time. But that is what nation building is about. So when we come here to do these things, we are not personal about Kisi Ajabin. No. We are concerned about the way in which the National Office of the Special Prosecutor, funded by taxpayers' money, should work. Is that the way it should work? It should work with the OSP holding 10 soldiers walking around him every day. Okay, if he says that he's under threat, fair enough. But what about the systems, the way the office works? I saw something on social media. Somebody said that the only thing Kisi Ajabin has investigated is something. He mentioned it. Where is all the money that Parliament has been approving for him? What investigations is he doing? La Bianca died. It is said that they took money from La Bianca. She died. But that's the main thing we know. Cecilia Dampare, nothing happened. After all the shenanigans, our 1 million that we thought Cecilia Dampare had, that he should go and collect for us, he was not able to collect 1 CD of the Cecilia Dampare 1 million. Not quarter CDs. After all the shenanigans he did, carrying drone all over the place, he couldn't do it. Now that is the point of our criticism. That high-profile public officials should not behave like children. They shouldn't. And they shouldn't behave like superstars clamoring for stardom because you are office of the special prosecutor. That is not a stardom position. If you want a stardom position, learn how to sing like Stone Boy, or learn how to sing like My Shatter, or learn how to play football and score free kicks like Dede Ayew. Then you are inching towards stardom. Or if you want to get stardom on the screen, learn how to act like John Dumelo or Jackie Appiah or who are the rest? Nadia Buhari or, the Nigerian people or, all of them. Yes, you can learn how to do that. Those are things that bring stardom if you are successful. A lawyer named special prosecutor is not about stardom. So you don't try to force stardom into it. You will look ridiculous when you do that. Anyway, let's get on tell you the story. Bring back Kisi Ajabin's photograph. Let me tell our viewers the story that we have for today, because we are beginning to unravel the problem. Do you have the other photographs? Yeah, here we go. We are beginning to unravel the problem that Kisi Ajabin here has with Ken Ofori-Atta here. It has to do with this gentleman whose photograph we cannot show yet because he is not listed as a government official yet. But as time goes on, we may have our lawyer's permission to show you that as well. But this is the story. Kisi Ajabin and Ken Ofori-Atta and this gentleman. Okay, so let's take it one by one. The gentleman here was involved in a government contract in 2016. Very good contract. It was a contract that was intended to import bulletproof vehicles for the government of Ghana. This contract was entered into by the Office of the President under Chief of Staff, as he then was, Julius Debra, incidentally, as he now is, again, Chief of Staff. So this contract was executed between the Office of the President, representing the government of Ghana, and the entity that brought in the imported cars. By the time the cars got to Ghana, it was 2017, and Adodankwa Akufo-Addo had been sworn in as president, and Ofori-Atta had been made finance minister. Ofori-Atta, according to the story, looked at the situation and doubted why government should cough up so many millions, and I have the figure, but we'll talk about it as we get. I'm looking, in Good Evening Ghana, we want the document. So I'm getting the document from the ministry. I'll get and show you here, that document, how much was owed to this entity. Millions of dollars. Millions. Ofori-Atta decided that he doesn't know how to honor this thing. He's not going to do it. Why should government come in and somebody has imported? What is the bulletproof cars for? So they started raising issue. Did Parliament approve this, that, and then they saw that some I's were not dotted, some T's were not crossed, as we noticed with most of the things that happened in the wee hours of 2016 December. Okay, so he decided that he won't pay. Now, in making that decision, Ofori-Atta may have been unaware that he has stepped on a significant business toe, and it was becoming a problem. Ofori-Atta must have felt justified when another scandal broke, the scandal called PDS, about which we'll be talking about tonight when we get to ECG. When the PDS story broke, it was found again that the entity here was neck deep in PDS. So it was becoming a concern. Why is this entity neck deep in PDS as well? The same person who said he brought bullet. What is all this? What's going on? I can imagine the sentiments of the top at the time. Anyway, one of the important people in the story decided to negotiate with this entity just to create good neighborliness. We are all Ghanaians. He's a businessman. Let's not fight with him. It's not necessary. If we can get the fight out, let's get. I agree with that. I agree with that. So this person decided to negotiate with him and told him that, Chief, look, get out of PDS, because PDS is not going anywhere. They found insurance fraud. The Attorney General's office has found insurance fraud with PDS, so it's not going anywhere. But you get out of it. Just hand over your shares, and then we might be able to talk Ofori-Atta into finding something else for you. You're a businessman, so there are lots of things that you can do. Okay, so he kind of agrees to get out of PDS. He gets out of PDS, nothing is found, his cars are not paid for. The story continues that the cars were then sort of thought about as being then handed over to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. At the time, his protege became Special Prosecutor. That, okay, let's give the cars to Kisi and then we can sort it out. And then we, Good Evening Ghana, with our big mouth, came here and exposed the fact that Kisi has bought bulletproof cars. So one day we were called and told that, Charlie, your story has worked though. The soldiers are here. They are moving the bulletproof cars out of the building. Because he was afraid that we'll send the RTI to him, that we won't know where the cars are. Because we sent an RTI, he didn't respond. Then he sent soldiers to move. We have the video. But soldiers are my people. I don't know why Kisi thinks that he can use soldiers. You are doing good. Soldiers are Good Evening Ghana. Good Evening Ghana is soldiers. So when you are dealing with soldiers, you should know that I'm there. If you go to 5BN, I'm there. 4BN, I'm there. 1BN, I'm there. If you go to 6BN Tamale, I'm there. Everywhere, I'm there. You go to Reki Sunyani, I'm there. Reki Accra, I'm there. Everywhere you go with soldiers, I'm there. So don't worry yourself, okay? So he didn't know that we still have the video. So we showed it to people. That look at Kisi. Look at him driving the cars. The soldiers are moving the cars. We showed the video to people. They saw it. We won't show it here yet. And so that one too fizzled out. So we don't know whether the bulletproof cars have yet been paid for or whatever it is. So in those circumstances, this man here got very angry and told friends of his, and I had heard that story before, that whenever the MPP gets out of government, he will get Kisi Ajabin to harass Ofori-Atta to the bone and marrow. This, viewers, is the beginning and the end of the story. Nothing more, nothing less. So this is how state power, state authority can be used. You know, when we're reading in politics about how the coups occurred, and one of the demerits of each of the coups, including all the coups, was that some persons, unscrupulous, the word was used, some unscrupulous persons will take advantage of the occasion of the coup and carry out, the expression used all the time was, carry out personal vendetta. We heard it, that they carried out personal vendetta with all the soldiers and the coups. I'll come to these people when I'm doing the privatization thing. I'll come to them in a minute. That the soldiers know, they carried out personal vendetta. Do we also carry out personal vendetta in a democracy? Surely the media and the courts should be a bulwark against people using official state authority like this to carry out personal vendetta against a former finance minister just because he refused to pay money that he thought in his mind was not money that he should commit the taxpayers' resources to pay somebody millions of dollars for importing some cars for their people. This is the story. So, Kwesi Agyabeng is bent on prosecuting Ken Ofori-Atta over the story we heard is that over SML. That after looking at it, he thinks that SML is where there's an opportunity to prosecute Ofori-Atta. So he's going to go after Ofori-Atta on SML, on prosecution. Now, guess what? The NDC is not interested in prosecuting Ofori-Atta, otherwise they would have. But they are sitting quietly and looking at it and enjoying it. I mean, if Kwesi Agyabeng, or your own man, is the one Akufo-Addo appointed, if he is prosecuting Ken Ofori-Atta, what should NDC do? So I have heard that there's been deep throat conversations in high places. And all the time, the response from the Mahama administration has been that, Chief, we didn't appoint Kwesi Agyabeng. He is their own appointee. So if he's going after Ofori-Atta, we don't have any intervention to make. In fact, Kwesi Agyabeng Crown, we don't talk to him. We don't intervene in the things he's doing. As you heard the Attorney General say in a press conference, that he's yet to meet with Kwesi Agyabeng and to look through the things. So this is the issue. The concern that we've always had about Kwesi Agyabeng is the kind of infrastructure that has been laid out. First of all, in an ugly pursuit of stardom. That's very, very ugly. It shouldn't be, because once a public official, you see, when you're a public official, you are operating the social contract under HOPS. Therefore, all of us, our power has been given to you to administer it in favor of every good person who is not breaking the law in Ghana. Now, when that power is given to you, it's not your power, you see. So you should not be allowed to use it for personal vendetta. That's why the courts are always there to put the brakes on you. The media is always there to put the brakes on you, because as Lord Acton said, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So this is the problem of those of you who've been asking me. My problem with Kwesi Agyabeng is his penchant for stardom, which is wrong and which will make him abuse power. Because once you have a penchant for stardom, you are going to be a candidate for abuse of power. Because these situations is not given to you because you are clever. It's given to you because of trust. Because it is power. It's not your power. It's the people's power that has been given to you. So you occupy a position of trust. It is not in a position of trust that you are going to do the bidding of your business partners and carry out a personal vendetta against another Ghanaian. That should never be allowed. This is my story against Kwesi Agyabeng, and a penchant for stardom and a potential abuse of office. That's it. That's the problem. Now you understand it. His pursuit of Ofori-Atta all is about, my friend wasn't paid, so whenever the MPP leaves government, I will teach you a lesson. Let me leave it here so that you can concentrate on other important things. Let me leave it here. I'll come back onto the story later on. Now though, Police Independence Day. Now, this is a story I did against Dampare, and it's gone all over, and people are calling me and they are worried. Somebody asked me a question, which is a very important question. They said that when you were doing the Dampare thing, I said, which one? Because there are 3 separate videos. He said, the one that you put on there, you put that Police Independence Day, but you wrote the thing big too much. Oh. I said, don't worry. Former IGP, good evening. I didn't know that in 2025, when John Mahama has won elections, I'll be standing here and calling you former IGP. But that is how God works. Because you also didn't know. You also didn't think that John Mahama will be president and you will be called former IGP, not in 2027, but in March. 3 months after John Mahama was declared president by a landslide, you, Kwesi Dampare, you are former IGP. That is how God works. Now, they were asking me, I'm going to read an Atta's article in a minute. They were asking me about, put Dampare back, I'll come to Atta. They were asking me about whether why was I doing that? Was it personal and blah, blah, blah? And I said, oh, yeah, to some extent it was personal. I'll show you why. The thing that, as a journalist, and it's my own call, it doesn't have to be another journalist's call, it's my own call. What I will work to fight against is hypocrisy in public office. I have such an abhorrence to hypocrites who are occupying public office. You see, when you're a public officer or you're a politician, you have to have this relationship with the people. What they see is what they get. It's not that you are pretending when you see people, then you put your hands behind you, then you are causing diabolic anger, you are killing people, but you are buying cocoa and katia and chatting with children. You see, that kind of hypocrisy we must eschew from our public life. An Inspector General of Police is a man in authority and command over the National Police Service. He must do his work. How are we going to know that he's doing his work? We're going to know he's doing his work when there's serenity within the security system, within the security apparatus, when the conduct of police officers resonates with us, when we see that the police are solving problems. That's when we know that he's doing his work. He's not doing his work because there's a photograph of him talking to children. He's not doing his work because there's a photograph of him buying Kofi Brookman, Kokoy and Katie. He's not doing his work because there's a photograph of him dancing. No, he can dance all he wants. But that is not how we should evaluate an IGP. But one who is crafty, like Dampare, will throw those things at you to suggest to you that he's a good IGP. That is the kind of public life that I'm fighting. And that is why I take these things personal. Because I've seen it throughout my 20-something years of journalism. All of those people, they run us into a ditch. All of those politicians who pretend that they don't do this, they put their hands behind them. That is why Canada Japan is increasingly becoming popular. Because people want to see what you see is what you get. Stop this hypocrisy. Cut the hypocrisy off and let's deal with it. That is why Dampare is the first IGP since Kwame Nkrumah's independence that he has been removed and police have gone on jubilation. Never happened. Yesterday, President Mahama removed fire service boss. Nobody jubilated at fire service. Yesterday, President Mahama removed prison service boss. Nobody jubilated at prison service. Today, President Mahama has removed the chief of defense staff. No single soldier jubilated. And it has never happened since Kwame Nkrumah's independence. It only happened with Dampare. Only him that he has been removed and police. Okay, so Kwesieni tells us that the police officers who are jubilating are corrupt. What about Trobo? Trobo, is he corrupt? What about Agozo? Is he corrupt? Agozo is corrupt. Agozo was the one who survived the treason trial, the NDC man in the police service. He will tell you he's not an NDC man. I met him at Voma House thing, the thing you just watched. Those of you saw the program before we started. I met him, they had a nice chat. Agozo is not corrupt. Agozo says that he's not surprised that people are jubilating. Trobo, the one in parliament, says that he's not surprised that people are jubilating. Are they also corrupt? You should ask Kwesieni in that. How can he say that the people who are jubilating, all the police in Kumasi, they were shooting, Sunyane, everywhere they are celebrating, he said that they are all corrupt and Dampare was, what corruption was Dampare stopping? Now that Dampare is not there, we are going to investigate how he used the $41 million and then we will see who is corrupt. Who was paying money to journalists and paying money to civil society? Why should an IGP be paying money to journalists every month, every quarter? Why should an IGP be paying money to civil society? You see, that is why I say that journalists must have money. Because you see, if journalists who are the sounding board of our society don't have money, they will be collecting money from Dampare. Journalists who have money will ask Dampare that, what are you giving money for? Please keep your money. Let me deal with my work. It doesn't mean journalists don't want money. No. But we must have journalists who are okay, sufficiently good, so that it's not every money they will collect. That was the rumor. It was widely rumored that Dampare was giving journalists money. Widely rumored everywhere. It is still being rumored and was giving civil society money to hide his things. Why is he targeting journalists to pay them? Because he knows that they are the sounding board. So if he pays them, he can get away with murder. And didn't he get away with murder? Dampare got away with murder. He did. Why? Because he's paying the people who can talk. The people who are talking, he's paying them. The policemen who were celebrating when he was removed, they have always had that inclination. They've been talking to some of us all the time. I'm not the only one. They've spoken to many journalists all the time about this Dampare problem. But they are service members, they can't talk. You talk, Dampare will transfer you. You talk, he will sack you. Even now, go back to Kwesieni. Forget about everything Dampare did. What about the promotion of the National Security Coordinator? Why did Dampare decide that he will not promote the National Security Coordinator? Do you know why? He didn't want to promote him so that President Mahama will consider him for Deputy IGP, or some President Akufo-Addo will consider him for Deputy IGP. A Deputy IGP was appointed, Yohonu. Dampare went ahead to undermine him. Does Kwesieni know that? Does Imani know that? Do they know these things? Does Kofi Bentil know that Dampare went out of his way to undermine Yohonu brutally in a way that was so bad that nobody at the police service has seen that before? And then they come and talk about him and they say you are being personal. An inspector general of police who takes the police power, the same thing Kisi Ajabin does, the power that is given to him by the social contract, he appropriates it onto himself and then he uses it as if it's power that he himself generated. That's the kind of thing that will continue to perform editorials against, because this republic must be run like a real republic so that one day we'll become like America. So the characterization of Dampare should never become IGP again. And I hope that Yohonu will stay on the course, straight and narrow, and deliver the goods. Now, let's go to what Atta said. They're going to put it on. Atta is a lawyer and a former member of parliament, former minister for works and housing, and he was the chairman of the Dampare committee that went to parliament. You know that the Dampare situation, Alex Mensah, blah, 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 that was a parliamentary inquiry, and Atta was the chairman. These are the things that Atta has written about Dr. Dampare. Let's have the document. These are the things Atta has written about Dr. Dampare since Dampare fell. He says, there is a world of difference between reputation and character. You can pay good money to prop your reputation so the world will believe you are the one who was crucified on the cross. The rented press are good at inflating reputation. Those who are superficial in orientation may even worship reputation. But character cannot hide. It's like a pregnancy, and it will ultimately show. Please, let's move to the next page. I think my screen is... oh, that's all we have? Okay, it's coming. Yeah. All right. Now, the next page reads as follows. If you know the dossier on Dampare, which was placed on the table of President Akufo-Addo, you will be shocked why he was romancing such evil. Why was NDC pre-election comfortable with Akufo-Addo's appointee? Why was Bagbin, Agalga, and the cabal hell-bent in protecting the IGP? At least Mahama is displaying a modicum of common sense. How can you be disloyal to Akufo-Addo, your appointer, and be loyal to me? Is there another page? Okay. The mistrust is like wedding a certified prostitute. A leader should not spray cologne on feces. Another time, I will discuss presidential impotence. Shalom, says Atta. This is the Dampare that civil society was protecting. And some of the media were heavily protecting. This is the Dampare. This is him. I mean, I was totally shocked. When I heard some of the monies he was paid, I'm investigating that. It will come. We are all looking at it. It will come. We are trying hard to get some of those that he paid to come and say that, yeah, he gave me money, but I didn't know what it was for. I just took it. Because he was doing it every month. And that's what he's reported to have done at the Jubilee House in the week that he was fired. Look at what Atta is saying. He's asking that, why was the NDC pre-election comfortable with Akufo-Addo's appointee? Why was the Speaker Bagbin and Agalga and the cabal bent on protecting the IGP? That President Mahama is displaying a modicum of common sense, because he's asking himself, how can you be disloyal to Akufo-Addo who appointed you and pledge loyalty to me? But President Mahama is a politician. He's been a politician for a long time. So it was clear in his mind that you, Dampare, you come to me at Chain Homes when Akufo-Addo is sitting there as the Pengonga, and come and tell me things about them. Mahama was watching him. He said, oh, yes, okay. Oh, so you help us. Oh, yes. So after the election, what do we do? After the election, people can put your guys on the street. Oh, as for this election, Mr. President, we are winning. I'm sure that's what Dampare will say. He was telling John Mahama, we are winning. And the President will say, yeah, we are, no problem, yeah. He would see you off and come back and call Lord and say, Madam Lord, come and listen. Do you know what Dampare was telling me? You said, they were saying, you be winning. When he said, in an election, you be winning. Can binti you winning? I say, and Lord, I will say, hey, we are say. And John Mahama said, no, you let us win first. That's the most important thing. Let's focus. Once he's talking like that, you get a call from Standogbe. And Stan will say, he said, boss, they are waiting for you. Are you coming to address? Hey, I'm coming. I said, Lord, I tell you, because I campaign. Then Dampare is gone. Then Dampare will come again. Dampare thought that the seasoned politician John Mahama will not see through this. I mean, I was totally shocked. You promote his man in January, and you think that he won't know that you are so disloyal, massively disloyal. You are a bunch of exaggerated image. He will know. John Mahama will definitely know. And any politician of his stature will definitely know. And that is why you'll be fired. He should go and look for Akufo-Addo. Dampare should look for Akufo-Addo. I'll end the Dampare story here. And then let's go to celebrate Inspector General of Police, COP Christian Teteyonu. Good evening, sir. We wish you Godspeed. Now, this one is a montage for you from our school. That's a montage for you. Please give it to COP Yohonu, the Inspector General of Police. 8 minutes at the top of the hour. I'm sure you're enjoying the show. Antoinette, what are people saying?
People seem to be very interested in both stories so far. Baba Chairman, all the way from Tamale, for example, says that the only theatrical IGP that Ghana has ever had, always trying very hard to please math. Every day for the thief, one day for the master. Mr. Former IGP, your cup is full and karma has caught up with you. On the story of the special prosecutor, Yao February says that the special prosecutor was using the former finance minister, Mr. Ofori-Atta, as a scapegoat to get the trust of this government. The case filed by Mr. Ofori-Atta would give us some clue for the OSP placing and withdrawing his picture on wanted list in Ghana. Edward Dugbaja says that is Paul saying seriously that Ken Ofori-Atta, aka Piccadilly, hasn't done anything wrong or caused any financial loss to the state, and that Kisi Jaben is on a personal vendetta. If you keep on with these, the NPP's votes will keep on shrinking, he says, from 38.2% to 18% by 2028. Now, Samuel Kweku Papu says that yes, OSP and Ken Ofori-Atta's issue looks a little more like a personal attack on the former finance minister. The OSP's mannerisms and tone sounds more like a hate rant instead of a professional one. Now, Hamza says that it looks like the NPP cares for Ghana, but they do not care at all. How did the demolition of the La General Hospital benefit the people of La? We are all everyday practicing Ghanaians, and we know the waste and mess that the NPP caused. Regardless of what is happening in the country, the NDC is still the better choice. Z Haj Hamza on the story of the OSP says the least said about this OSP, the better. He is very good at organizing press conferences, by the way, and nothing else. It's very disgusting the way he wastes the taxpayers' money. Gastiman, still on the story of the special prosecutor, says that the OSP is making that office very ridiculous. I don't really understand his main role and responsibilities. I used to understand the role of the office, but the personality in the office contradicts the role of the office. He frequently organizes press conferences and addresses only people like he is reading literature books with no relevant information. Now, lastly, Yao February says that the suit against the OSP by Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta would direct the special prosecutor to work within the remit of his mandate. How can you declare Mr. Ofori-Atta wanted and fugitive to justice when he has been collaborating with the OSP since the initiation of the investigation, and also notifying the OSP and the presidency about his absence from medical treatment? This is not right at all. Now, lastly, Gabi Koran says, kudos on a yeoman's job as usual, Mr. Paul. Fact over emotions. There is a clear distinction between the NPP and the NDC in terms of political substance. Gradually, Ghanaians will soon realize that the NDC and John Mahama have pulled the most dishonest political scam in the century over them. We are all here to watch. Ella, what do you have?
All right, so the conversations have been very, very interesting. And this one is from Aaron. He says, one significant measure to protect whistleblowers in Ghana is the establishment of the Whistleblower Act of 2006, which provides some level of protection for individuals who disclose information about unlawful activities. It stipulates that whistleblowers should remain anonymous and receive protection against employment discrimination. However, the Act's effectiveness relies on the implementation and the willingness of enforcement agencies to act by its provisions. Continuous effort to amend and strengthen this legislation, including better definitions of protected disclosures and extended coverage, are very vital to people coming out to talk about issues. This one is from Mial. He said, we voted for the NDC government to turn around to transform the state-owned companies that were running negative in the balances. The same political appointees managing these companies are the same people who wanted to privatize to their cronies. The move to privatize these state institutions authenticates the incompetency of the NDC government. Junior Agba says, NDC from top to down, I'm talking from the president to all his ministers, they are doing what they will do to benefit the NDC. They don't care about any Ghanaians. I always tell the people of this nation that we are going to regret ever going back to the NDC. Z Hamza says, it's very unfortunate that these are the caliber of guys we voted to run the affairs of the state. If this was under NPP government, you would have to hear the so-called neutrals talk about all these things, like people like Professor Jampo and Martin Opoku and TV3 making it their headlines. He says, Apostle Paul, greetings to the incoming national organizer of the NPP, Honorable Daniel Titus Clover. I am surprised the OSP is still talking after being served the court documents from Mr. Ofori-Atta's lawyers for their blatant disregard for human rights under the 1992 Constitution. It is high time the officers of the OSP office execute their mandate and discretion under the ambit of the law. Ghana is a republic and not the Banana Republic. This one is also from Nana Owusu. He says, the NDC is joking. I don't know if they have forgotten how to be in parliament or be in government since it's been a while. Princess Dampare and Kisi are both certain officers. Allow them to do it for the gram. Ibrahim says, we are very grateful for further education on the issue of the OSP and Dampare. You are indeed a wonderful journalist. And lastly, this one is from Bones. He says, Dampare saw himself like an edgelord, and he is coming down without a warning. Definitely an interesting take on that one. Back to you, Paul.
Okay, this is still Good Evening Ghana. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we have more stories for you. I'm getting an update on, I think some people are texting me on some evidence on the OSP. I'm getting an update. I'll come back after the break and we share it. We also have the sports story from Arsenal. We have a podcast on when will Arsenal win the league. It's interesting. You might want to know if you are a sports fan. After the break, we'll be back here. This is Good Evening Ghana is live.
There's nothing worse than your multi-bet missing, but nothing better than having it saved. Bet Saver. Here's Kwame and Yao. After hours of planning, both have locked in the same perfect multi-bet. Big win for United, over 1.5. And both teams to score in the London Derby. But who could have picked Leicester over City? Or a high-scoring game at the Bridge? There's nothing worse than having your perfect multi-bet missing. But there's nothing better than having it saved. Bet Saver. Win, even if your bet misses.
Anti-cavity, gum protection, brighter teeth, and fresh bread.
I'm a fat missy way.
Prepare your bantama.
My chest. It's her smile, the fresh breath. Me, Judy said we used to Cal 360 toothpaste. Send the car. Cal 360 toothpaste.
Yes, Kia. Cal 360 toothpaste. It's a gum protector. Onim jom kasa. You know what I'm saying? Cal 360 did the way. It's cool mint. Gives me fresh breath and your confidence booster.
You were so feeling when you know Cal 360 toothpaste.
Happy smile.
Cal 360 toothpaste, anti-cavity, gum protection, brighter teeth, and fresh breath. Cal, happy smile. This advert is FDA approved.
Fire pomudin ya gubi Ghana funi aji if you say ya your local spices na ya fra dia ya sanko for natural spice
me de go me jollof mu me misti wa hoduma e ma ne dance
Stanley the barbecue the go on
sanko for natural spice and one you use 100% natural said the happen
Adofo mamu ye huge mistake sanko for natural spices.
I'm a brand manager. Of course, I accept only quality and affordable printed souvenirs for my promotional campaigns.
I'm the head of academic affairs of a very important institution in Ghana. Of course, we only deal with quality, reliable printing companies for our institution's printing materials. I'm talking about appointed time printing.
Appointed Time Printings. We take pride in our extensive print scope that transform your ideas into captivating visual masterpieces. We delve into the core objectives and vision of each print project. Precision printing is at the heart of our printing process as we meet your tight deadlines. Our rigorous inspections, color verification, and overall printing excellence are assured. 20 years of printing excellence. It's always a pleasure working with you to create a vibrant, dazzling printing experience that gives you a masterpiece. Appointed Time Printing, your world of quality and affordable printing.
Look around. Home also need a makeover. Mine clearly does. So we went to Ashroom and found the Como collection. It had everything we're looking for and more. Merchant furniture for the entire home, designed with you in mind.
Where's Como collection? Dressing up is just a breeze. Always ready with a perfect accessory.
A magic dressing mirror. One look and you're ready to face the world. Or at least the kids.
A bed perfect for young men who want
a table that turns into a treasure chest.
And finally, a sofa with this grand TV unit for family time at home.
Head over to any Ashphone store now and discover the new Como collection. Ashphone, feel it, know it.
You're the answer to my prayers. You're with me everywhere. You're my angel, miracle. You're all I need tonight. Give me shelter from the rain. You breathe life in me again. You're my angel, miracle. You're all I need to know tonight.
So what am I watching for piano?
Yeah, this is my secret. Give us pea capsules. Pema wa won din ko from now on to me to my din won pem. Give us pea capsules. Obedu was mama. Ono enemy lawyer.
And to lawyer no na show bottom. Are you bro? Are you bro? Then na pon me see baba chia mo a ezeniji.
Bosano.
No. You never waka wo. The friend give us cold capsules. Say yes is yare na wo so ko di di wo ni pedem woni na wo posa amamman entimi ma wunja wo nan yi. Wonum give us cold capsules a. Wo be ye free.
Lawyer.
Give us cold capsules.
And I give us pea capsules.
Hey, and they give us free.
Chinasuma.
And men what if you do what you do never give us core capsules. A pay for a batter one more menu for one and quadra if you do me.
Attention all farmers.
Are you ready to take your crops to the next level? Introducing 3 effective organic composts that will revolutionize your farming practices. ACAP, KCAP, and IRICOP brings to you the ultimate solution for your fertilizer needs. Introducing the ACAP Grade A, KCAP Equiafua Jinkwa, and the IRICOP with cocoa blends, palm blend, and mulch. These are made from locally sourced municipal solid waste, and these are the perfect choice for sustainable farming. Join the organic revolution today. Boost your crop yield, improve soil health, and support sustainable farming practices. Choose ACAP, KCAP, and IRICOP organic compost for a greener and bountiful harvest. For your purchase and more information, call the numbers on your screen. Our products are endorsed by COCOBOD, Planting for Food and Jobs, and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture.
There's nothing worse than your multi-bet missing, but nothing better than having it saved. Bet Saver.
It's 3 minutes past the top of the hour, 10 o'clock. Good evening again, and welcome back to the show after the break. We have a big sports story coming up. But my friend from Ashanti region, Kweku Bobie, he was speaking something. I don't know whether I should be disappointed or whether I should laugh or whether I should be worried, because I'm a friend of foot soldiers. Whether they are NDC or MPP, they are my people. Once you're a food soldier, I'm my man. You know, when we meet, we can talk. We buy watch at Antimony, we go and buy rice at Osu and all that. I meet the food soldiers, I'm with them all the time. So when I heard him complain like that, I was quite worried. Listen to the video that he sounded quite upset too. It has to do with NDC's arrival in government, 3 months, what is happening, who is getting what, who is not getting what, who is sharing what, who is not sharing what. Have a listen.
Okay, that NDC for sure, no more straight. But NDC should buy. Omo power na omo ewura office pe air condition bono no to be Land Cruiser pe na ni Jimmy aba NDC ni bia suban onye ewura office ohun air condition first 4 years na yema no. That is how a typical NDC person thinks. Okay, na NDC for sure no more straight. But NDC suban omo power na omo ewura office pe air condition bono no to be Land Cruiser pe na ni Jimmy aba NDC ni bia suban onye ewura office ohun air condition first 4 years na yema no. That is how a typical NDC person thinks. Okay, na NDC for sure no more straight. But NDC suban omo power na omo ewura office pe air condition bono no to be Land Cruiser pe na ni Jimmy aba NDC ni bia suban onye ewura office ohun air condition first 4 years na yema no. That is how a typical NDC person thinks.
I don't agree with him. I know a lot of NDC people who are not fascinated by air conditioning and Land Cruiser. Is he saying that Dr. Manibo Ahmad, the Minister for Defense, who has been Minister for Communication before, he sees air conditioning and Land Cruiser and he can't think anymore? Is he saying that the Foreign Minister, Okujoto Ablakwa, who has been Deputy Minister before at a much younger age, he sees air conditioning and Land Cruiser, he can't think anymore? Is he saying that Felix Kwachu Ofosu, my minister, who has been minister before, he sees air conditioning and Land Cruiser and he cannot think anymore? Is he saying that Case Lato Forsen, the Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, that he sees air conditioning and Land Cruiser and he cannot think anymore? Because I didn't know whether I should laugh. I'm not sure what Bobie meant. Maybe something is cooking, but hopefully there shall be showers of blessings. That is the promise of God. In between the time, there will be seasons refreshed and it shall come from the Savior above. So Bobie, relax. Whilst your showers of blessings is a promise from God, your seasons refreshing will come from the Savior above. But Bobby, you are very close to Julius Deborah, so you don't have any problem. So you shouldn't have any problem. So take it easy and take it easy. Anyway, what are the Commonwealth boys saying at 27 minutes past 10 o'clock? Here is that.
Now you be Oga. Oh, good evening. Now you be Oga. Good evening. Now you be Oga.
Good evening. Ghana, I simply love it.
Now you be Oga. Oh, good evening. Now you be Oga. Good evening. Now you be Oga.
And you have to be sorry for us now, shouldn't you? Because, I mean...
yeah, they are 12 points behind Liverpool.
It's not going to happen this season. It's not going to happen. So I was at the Emirates Stadium. Please show them some of the photographs. Let's see. I was at the Emirates Stadium on Sunday evening. Nice people. I mean, this young man, I don't think he's seen Arsenal win a trophy.
Never.
I mean, that's problematic. So there we were. I don't know what I was clapping for, but I'm sure that they had done something very good. We are standing up, so it's probably end of the game or halftime. And look at the Arsenal people. Let me open the picture of yours. Look at the Arsenal people. Look at this man. Look at this. Look at the lady. Look at my guy. Look everywhere. I mean, what? This is at the time they were leading 1-0 against Chelsea. The game was about to end. They were going to win. Yeah. But I mean, you have to feel sorry for us now. And then there was a video. Play the video at the end of the game. The Emirates is so well organized. This was only my second time there. Play the last video. They have some music. There's some music at the back. And then we get to the story. That's the video going on. Play the sound. At the end of the game, you could feel that they love the team, but there was something wrong. They don't like hearing what is wrong, but you see, here's Arteta, and tell me if I'm wrong. This is Arteta's generation. Yeah. He played with Frank Lampard. Gerrard. He played with Steven Gerrard. Yeah. You probably didn't even add Paul Scholes and the others. Yes. In those days, he was a very effective player for Everton, later on for Arsenal. I know that. Yeah. But he was not one of the stardom players. And I'm thinking that there's a psychological problem here. With Arsenal's problem is psychology. Because of that, and because he was so effective, it appears to me that Arteta wants to show that he can win the league without your so-called superstar players. That's the problem Arsenal is having.
I think I'm also buying into it because Ancelotti was a star man for the Azzurri and also AC Milan during his days. He won the Champions League and he became a good coach.
Yes, Carlo Ancelotti.
Yes, Carlo Ancelotti.
And look at how he manages the big players.
Yes.
I'll come. Ancelotti is a good example.
Yeah.
I thank you for
even
that.
Even Zidane.
This is Aubameyang.
Yeah.
And listen to what Aubameyang said.
He says to manage big characters and big players, he can't deal with it. Aubameyang said
that Arteta cannot deal with big players.
Yes.
Now the problem is Arsenal have needed a striker who can score 25 goals a season. If you get that to Bukayo Saka, you are about winning the league. Yeah. To have a striker who can score 25 goals in a season, he is full of ego.
Yeah.
You have to manage that ego as a coach. Arteta doesn't like those egotistic players because he wants to show that he can use players who don't have ego who can play well, train well, discipline well to win the title. So he doesn't want the Man City striker, what's his name?
Aguero or Haaland.
Aguero or Haaland. Arteta doesn't want those people. Wayne Rooney, he doesn't want those people. And even Cristiano Ronaldo, he doesn't want those people. He doesn't want big name players.
And even with Aubameyang, I didn't understand the season before Arteta came in. That was 2019-2020. Aubameyang had 22 goals in the league. 2018-2019, he had 22 goals and he won the Golden Boot together with Salah and Mane. That was the first time 3 African players shared that award. So you can see that before you were coming into the team, this guy was
scoring 22
goals.
So if you make him score 25,
and the next season when you came, he nearly won it. It was only Vardy that beat him to 1 goal. That was 23 goals. So he could have won back-to-back Golden Boots. This is a guy from Dortmund. We knew him that he was the best player.
He's made my point now, and he comes out saying that.
Yes.
To manage big characters and big players, he can't deal with it. Arteta cannot, and that's Arsenal's problem. So if you look at the way Arsenal have played, you know, they have done so well.
And let's go to
the Premier League.
The Premier Punters. Yes.
So 2015 Chelsea won. Diego Costa 20 goals. Leicester, Vardy 24.
Yeah.
Chelsea, Diego Costa 20. Harry Kane 29.
Yes.
Harry Kane is a good example. You see, since Harry Kane left Tottenham is now this season going to finish in the bottom half of the season.
They are 14th now.
This is what Tottenham was doing all the time. But Harry Kane was always there to score 20 goals, 29 goals. And then that pushes them to the top 4, 5, something like that. If Manchester United had a player this season who was scoring 25 goals, they'll be up there. Now, the thing is, a player who scores 25 goals has an ego. You got to manage it. So Ancelotti, because he himself was a superstar, he brought in Mbappe in addition to Jude Bellingham. And Vinicius. These are big, huge ego players. Now, Jude Bellingham is 21 or 22. He has a huge ego because the kinds of things he can do on the field, if you're able to do that, you will get an ego because 1 million people will be praising you on Instagram. And naturally, you have an ego. Arteta should learn to manage those big, even Mohamed Salah, he can't manage it. Look at Aguero. So, in 2018, Aguero is scoring 21. Salah 32. Here, Aguero 21, Salah, Aubameyang, and Sadio Mane 22. So look at Liverpool. Salah is scoring 22, Mane is scoring 22. So Liverpool will always be up there. And then you have Liverpool again. Firmino scored 9 goals.
Salah 19.
This was the season that they won
the league.
Salah scored 19 and Mane scored 18. So you have one player scoring 19, one player scoring 18. Now, and 2021, Man City. It was
Harry Kane that scored 23 goals.
He won the season. But Gundogan scored 13 and Sterling scored 13. So together they have 20 something. How does Arsenal do? Who scored? Who was the top scorer for Arsenal last season? Was it Saka?
Saka,
How many?
15 goals.
Who was next after him?
That was Odegaard.
How many?
13 goals.
Yeah, that's missing something. That's why they are losing the title by 3 points, 4 points. It's complicated.
And let's look at the points gap. This was 2023. They lost by 5 points.
Oh, this is 2023. The season that Man City picked them at the end. They lost by 5 points.
And then just last season, just 2 points.
Last season they lost by 2 points.
Just 2 points.
Wow. And then now?
And now Man City have been so poor. Okay, so this was 28 games, but they have now 58 points. 12 points behind Liverpool. The thing is, Liverpool is messing up at this point. They're out of the FA Cup. They're out of the Champions League. But
they are 12 points ahead.
Yes, that's it.
They will still drop some points.
If it was Manchester City, they will have every shot of doubt to be feared.
You mean if Arsenal was Manchester City with a 12 points gap? How many games left? 15?
No, 9 games to go.
9 games to go. Because 12 points gap.
Because it was in 2018-2019 with 9 games to go. City was behind Liverpool.
Arsenal.
No,
Liverpool.
Behind Liverpool with 9 points. But they ended up winning with 1 point. So you can see that with City, Liverpool would have been on tenterhooks.
But with 12 games to go, what are Arsenal's most difficult games left?
So Arsenal has United to play still.
They've done that.
Oh yes,
They did that last week.
so
they drew.
They will have Newcastle to play.
Away.
They will have Newcastle to play.
Where's Newcastle?
Newcastle
6.
Yes, 6th. They have a game to play.
They have a game in hand.
Yes, and they want to challenge for the top 4.
Top 4.
Yeah.
So Arsenal is going to
Newcastle,
St James Park.
and then they'll face Nottingham Forest. Inform Nottingham Forest, who is vying for the Champions League.
But they are coming home to play Arsenal.
Yes,
They are coming to
but
the
they
Emirates.
are still a very good team.
Yeah, very good team.
They have been a
So
very
Arsenal
good
have 2 difficult games.
Difficult team, yeah.
Arsenal have finished with Liverpool.
Yeah, it's left with Liverpool. They'll go to Anfield also.
Oh, they have to go to Anfield.
And then in that game, sadly, they might do the guard of honor for Liverpool because it's
the last game.
No, it's the last but one game.
So if Liverpool keeps some consistency over the next 3 games,
yes,
and they've already won, they will win the title before Arsenal comes.
Arsenal will do a guard of honor for them. And this was their season. We all started them.
Arsenal supporters will not agree, but they have to begin to look at whether Arteta can handle a big name player. Aubameyang could have. I said Aubameyang. Kylian Mbappe could have gone to Arsenal. Maybe they should buy over Bruno Fernandes or something like that. Okay, that's the Arsenal story. Let's go back to text messages and see what we are getting with our ladies and social media editors. Should I start with Antoinette again? Okay, Ella, you start. What are people saying?
All right, so I think the conversations are still the same. This one is from Prince Harry. He says, Dampare messed up post-elections and I was finding it difficult how he let things loose. He refused to be in control of affairs after the election 2024 when the NDC thugs were on rampant. It was obvious that police control was critically missing, and considering how Dampare's policing had been done the past 4 years, it was evident that Dampare was not the same again. Prince says that the journalist of a very rare kind, factual presentation, in-depth analysis, say it as it is and as it ought to be. You shall continuously be relevant and always ahead of your peers. Okansi says the greatest mistake that former President Nana Addo made was the appointment of those 2 gentlemen, Kisi and Dampare. And lastly, from Marbik, he says, Apostle Paul, I have a question concerning the former IGP Dampare. Will he continue to be a police officer or will he be forced into early retirement? All right, Fatih, what do you have for us?
All right, thank you. So this is coming from Shadrach, and he says, Chelsea, if Eden Hazard scored even 15 goals, coupled with any striker in a season, then Chelsea grabs it. Great analysis on us now. Prince Opoku says, massive endorsements from the Vandals. Now, Richard Apon says, please, how much tax is the president paying as gift tax to the state as he uses his brother's private jet? And then lastly, coming from Kwesi Tomfo, says, Paul, the background music is from UB40. What do you present?
The sports story. Ed G says, please, Paul, do not tease us. We Arsenal supporters have kept our fingers crossed that Liverpool's recent loss will continue so that we can overtake them. Tracy J. Jr. says, Paul, look, do everything but don't mention my Arsenal. Have you finished looking at the crisis in your Manchester United? Be careful. A lot. And Real February says, Mr. Paul is one of the best sports bandits in Ghana. Now, Mashhood has a question. He's asking about the situation of the former IGP. He's asking whether he will continue to be a police officer now that he's been sacked, or will he be forced to retire? Over to you, Paul.
All right. Please, a correction here on the football story. I'm being told that Arsenal has finished with Nottingham Forest. So that's a correction on the story. Arsenal-Nottingham Forest is already done. Arsenal supporters are going to kill me when I say that their coach Arteta is this thing. All right, viewers, let's take you to the Democracy Hub event. And, we are preparing for this massive constitutional amendment issues. Oliver says he was in Tamale and that he's coming to Accra this weekend. We can meet. So, in honor of the Democracy Hub and the thing they did at the British Council Hall, it was well attended by Professor Jima Boedi, a very distinguished professor, Kofi Abochi, the Dean of the Faculty of Law at the UPSA, and Brazini, whose brother is Guzi Tano, who is the presidential advisor on 24-hour economy. And Guzi has recently said that the PPA law should be changed to make it compulsory for local manufacturers to participate in government stuff. So that's also very important. 20 minutes at top of the hour. Let's see what happened at the British Council Hall with Democracy Hub.
I think this is a perfect platform for us to have the conversation with the appropriate persons. So to begin, I would like to call for the opening remarks. Keshofs and Tegbli, please put your hands together. Let's welcome him.
Thank you very much, Mama V. I'm sure many of you might have interacted with me when you got here. We're happy to have you join us. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Keshofs Atengle, and I am Policy Research Coordinator at Democracy Hub, conveners of Fix the Country. On behalf of Democracy Hub, it's my distinguished honor to welcome you all to this groundbreaking policy event, the case for a new constitution.
I have the singular honor of introducing the chairperson for today's event, a distinguished individual whose commitment to democracy, governance, and development in Ghana and beyond is truly unparalleled. Professor Emmanuel Jemabwedi is a co-founder of Afrobarometer, a pioneering initiative that has completely transformed the landscape of public opinion research across the African continent. From 2008 to 2021, he served as its chief executive, steering it to global prominence as one of the leading sources of data on African governance, democracy, and development.
Thank you very much, Madam Elom. Your exaggerated descriptions of me, I'm sitting here but couldn't recognize myself in all that you say. But it's always, for somebody like me, just at the beginning of my 70s, it is a great privilege. It's always an honor. It's an opportunity to be associated with anything that the new generation does. Because I am certainly far from that generation. And it's always nice to be able to hang out with all of you and to basically learn from you, drink from your fountain of insights and wisdom. So it's great to be here. Of course, the subject matter, the agenda for today's discourse is of key importance to me for many reasons. But for lack of time, let me just say that first, as we've been saying over and over again, that the constitution we have simply over-centralizes power, it over-concentrates power in the hands of the president and the presidency and the executive, and basically trashes all the other provisions that are there for our institutions and our processes of government and governance to challenge and to checkmate. The Constitution also, at the very least, has created a needlessly expensive government, especially by saddling the country with all manner of institutions of state whose utility are, to say the least, dubious. And I'm sure all of you can name institutions within the Constitution whose disappearance we will not notice at all. Then also, it is a Constitution that leaves important democratic values such as, and practices such as inclusion, moderation, tolerance, only as an option and something that leaders and institutions may voluntarily comply with.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I'll be presenting today Democracy Hub's statement on a case for a new constitution. I would like to begin this statement from a rather unusual place, a movie. A religious movie, and I hope that you'll bear me out. A few days ago, I watched the screening of a movie called The Conclave. It was about the selection of a new pope, and the conclave of cardinals that had been summoned to elect the new pope. Now, every conclave which is summoned is led by a dean of the College of Cardinals. And on the eve of the elections, the dean stood before his colleagues and gave a speech of his own. A speech that struck quite a chord with me. Permit me to share some of the words from that speech with you this evening. He begins, "Dear brothers in Christ, at the moment of great uncertainty in the history of the Holy Church, we must think first of the late Holy Father, whose brilliant pontificate was a gift from God. Now we must ask our Lord to send us a new Holy Father through the pastoral solicitude of the Cardinal Fathers. And we must pray to God for that loving assistance and ask Him to guide us to the right choice. But you all know that." And then he puts his nose aside and then says, "Let me speak from the heart for a moment. St. Paul said, 'Be subject to one another out of reverence for Christ.' To work together and to grow together, we must be tolerant. No one person or faction seeking to dominate another. And speaking to the Ephesians, who are of course a mixture of Jews and Gentiles, Paul reminds us that God's gift to the church is its variety. It is variety, this diversity of people and views, which gives strength to our church. And over the course of many years, in the service of our mother, the church, let me tell you, there is one sin which I've come to fear above all others: certainty. Certainty is the great enemy of unity. Certainty is the deadly enemy of tolerance. Even Christ was not certain at the end. My God, why have you forsaken me?" He cried out in his agony at the 9th hour on the cross. Our faith is a living thing precisely because it works hand in hand with doubt. If there was only certainty and no doubt, then there would be no mystery, and there would be no need for faith. Let us pray that God will grant us a pope who has doubts, and let him grant us a pope who sins and asks for forgiveness and who carries on. The journey towards this event has not been easy. Few topics provoke as much certainty and resistance as the Ghanaian constitution. From the very first, our call for a new constitution for a new generation was met with reactions ranging from disbelief to outright dismissal. The idea of constitutional change, not review, but change, feels almost like a taboo to some. The certainty with which this resistance is expressed has been in itself remarkable. If you survey this room, perhaps most would argue that discussing a new constitution is an unthinkable idea. But why? Is it truly unthinkable? Or have we simply stopped thinking about it? Today we ask you to make space for doubt, to imagine the possibility that what seems unchangeable might be reconsidered. Doubt is not weakness. It is the foundation of every meaningful dialogue, every great innovation. Our history as a people has only progressed when we have dared to question dogma and embrace the terrifying but liberating thought. What if we are wrong? Some 16 odd years ago, I joined the Constitution Review Commission as its youngest researcher. I was then 22 years old. We were a team of 6 researchers supported by 6 research assistants, with Professor Raymond Atuwe then doubling as executive secretary and principal researcher. It was an honor to be part of a process that sought to interrogate the governance framework of our country. And I carried a deep sense of purpose as we listened to countless Ghanaians express their views about the Constitution. Over those months, I witnessed firsthand the aspirations, the frustrations, and questions that people had about a document that was supposed to be the bedrock of our democracy. From rural farmers and countless unemployed young people to urban professionals, the message was often the same. The Constitution, though once a symbol of hope, had become increasingly disconnected from the lived realities of the people it was meant to serve. I saw the statement from the presidency that appoints a new commission, and it refers to the work of the Constitution Review Commission. But one of the things it doesn't refer to, surprisingly, is the white paper that followed that work. The white paper, as the kids called, I remember when the white paper dropped, my former colleagues from the Constitution Review Commission drew lots, and the lot fell on me as the youngest to prepare what we call the variance report, the distinction between the white paper and what the recommendations of the commission were. Out of the 478 recommendations, The white paper accepted 229 recommendations, rejected outright 55 of them, and changed 27 of them. The white paper did not comment on 167 of those recommendations, leaving the legal status in a bit of a limbo. Now, critically, most of the rejected recommendations related to constitutional provisions. I'll try to give you a flavor of some of the rejections, okay? One, the Commission recommends that the Constitution be amended to include the basic principles of children's rights, that is the best interest of the child, non-discrimination, right to life, survival and development, right to life, right to health, participation and sense of responsibility according to evolving capacities. The presidency rejected this. Somehow the 1992 Constitution is incompatible with children's rights. It was recommended that the National Development Plan be binding, which was what Ghanaians were calling overwhelmingly for, and be entrenched. Not accepted. It was said that every citizen would have the right to enforce a national development plan for the country. Not accepted. It was said that the National Development Planning Commission would be independent, professional, multi-partisan. Not accepted. It was said that it should reduce the number of presidential appointees to the Council of State. Not accepted. That the MMDCs in metropolitan area should be elected by direct suffrage. Not accepted. The Commission also recommended that Article 14.3 of the Constitution be amended to reduce the time beyond which a person may be detained before being brought to trial from 48 hours to 24 hours. Not accepted. After the white paper came in, the Constitution Review Commission, had recommended that we set up a Constitution Review Implementation Committee. We call it CRIC. And their job was to then implement, I guess, in substance, the white paper report. But then the Attorney General took a new position, that it would be unconstitutional to put all the proposed amendments into two separate bills. Instead, all the recommendations would have to be proposed and go through their own individual Chapter 25 process, separate and individual bills. There was also some confusion whether there was the need for one single referendum for all the provisions, amending the entrenched provisions, or for every question deserved its own referendum. Then there was also Parliament. Of course, Parliament. I remember during the Commission's time, when Parliament was consulted about the review, they wanted two things. One, make sure that dual citizens do not contest for MPs. Two, make sure that MPs can get appointed as ministers and don't touch anything else in the Constitution. Parliament, for its part, insisted that for all the entrenched and non-entrenched amendment bills, that they had a constitutional power to make changes to them when they were laid before Parliament. These questions continue to remain unsettled, and I trust that they will continue to haunt the process as we go forward.
Listen. Listen to the rhythm that does not change. The stagnant thrum of power. A tethered drum beating to the same tired hand. This is not the melody of progress. It is the heavy drone of power gone stale. Ago. It clings to the skin of nations like dust after the dry season. Imagine a village where the river no longer flows, where water pools thick, stagnant, breeding diseases while life would have danced there. Ago. Do you see it? This is what happens when power sits for too long. When one man's shadow stretches across generations until it blots out the sun. In a distant field, an elder sharpens his machete under a baobab tree. His hands are calloused. His face is worn with the lines of a story which he cannot tell. Do you see this earth? He asks. If you do not let it rest, if you do not plant something new, it will not turn what it's supposed to turn, and it will turn to stone beneath you. Ago. But the so-called leaders do not listen, and they forget that leadership is not about them and what they want. They say the soil belongs to me. This soil is mine. They say my roots are deeper than the trees. Ago. And so the seasons remain the same. Dry, dry, and dry again.
Right, so we will just get right into it. First of all, I want to invite the panelists here to share their initial thoughts. In just about 2 minutes, perhaps react to what we have heard from the chair and as well as Oliver and the Democracy Hub.
This points to the fact that a discussion about constitution cannot simply be about the constitution. And I think that's an important thing to say, especially in light of what Professor Jemma said in relation to the kind of volatile feelings about the legitimacy or the paramountcy of constitutions vis-a-vis other forms of rule, such as military rule and so on and so forth. We saw a Black Star Square when Mahama was being sworn in. The biggest cheer was for Ibrahim Traore, the Burkinabe leader, with his controversial pistol in his side and so on and so forth. What that points to is that there's a sense in the sub-region and elsewhere in the world where people are questioning the fact that whatever we understand by the norms of liberal democracy simply facilitate the concentration of power, of wealth, and therefore the perpetuation of injustice and so on and so forth. From that point of view, I hope that the lesson that the first review that Oliver was describing, the one from 2010 to 2011, is taken on board in our discussion. One of the lessons that stood out for me, Oliver's long list of lamentations about what was rejected and not rejected, the fact is that debate was simply between the Commission and the government. No one else was involved. If today we're talking about a coalition, then it means that at least there's a sense that that debate, that conversation has to take its sources from beyond simply the specialized arenas and haloed corridors of those kinds of things. And when we come to that, hopefully I don't know how many minutes is left for a discussion, but those will be critical because we are in a far more of a deeper crisis than any of the comments that have been made here tonight begin to reflect. And it will be important to situate our discussion in that context.
The framers of the Constitution somehow trusted that we're going to have good leaders. I would say that a good constitution in the hands of bad men will fail. That is what we've had. We've had good constitution, what I still think is fundamentally okay. The problem is that we've had it in the hands of people with the wrong incentives. They are not in public service to serve. These are people who have come into public service with a private investment mindset. Unfortunately, we have a constitution which... Unfortunately, we have a system which is also structured in a way to incentivize that process. For example, we just finished an election. Do you know who funded the contestants? Do we know who funded the political parties? Now, if we don't care about the financiers, should we care about the corruption? We don't seem to realize that somehow there's a nexus, that people make political investment, and for every investor, there must be a return on investment. So for those who have invested in the recent election, they will soon line up for a return on investment. There are connections that we somehow don't realize. So to run up on this, lawyers don't do well speaking for short periods. But just to wrap up on this, I want you to recognize one thing. The Constitution contains problems. Some of the problems, in my opinion, require palliative response or responses. And I can give you an example, whether or not we should have a cap on the age of presidents.
Good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Paul Adumochile, and I'd like to congratulate the organizers of the event. Good evening to my lecturers on the stage, Professor Jemma Boedi, Kofi Abochi. They were all my lecturers, and my Judge, I'd like to start with a point you made about 1995 in terms of the establishments arresting themselves. That was a new order. I think that came a bit earlier, not on the streets, but at the Supreme Court. In December 1993, the 31st December case gave the first awakening to the junta that there was a constitution in place, except that happened in court. And that brings me to the point. Because it happened in court, we all assume that the mobilization on the street was stronger in Kumi Preko, which is what you referred to. But what happened in court was completely significant. And the sustainability of the constitution till today, I would put it on the judiciary especially the ruling in 31st. But let's bring the question back to why I'm worried about this coalition that we're putting together. Even though I'm fully in support of it, I sign up to it. We have a big responsibility. We will need to almost run a campaign, like a political campaign, to tell Ghanaians that this conversation we're having is connected to bread and butter. Because it is. But it's difficult to tell someone that a constitutional amendment process is connected to economic development. That's the big question that we all will have to answer. If we fail in answering that question, we will not be able to convince Ghanaians that there is any need for constitutional amendment. Now, I have just 1 minute left, so let me just finish it. On the constitutional amendment, my view of the matter is what I put in my book, which if I have to take advantage of my host platform, I'm selling it outside. It's entitled Africa's New Constitutional Development, the 77 stories that define Ghana's Fourth Republic. It includes the story of the first judging. But constitutions come out of the social contract, the one that Hobbes talked about. The constitutions come to arrange a way in which we distribute roles, power, mandate in a society. Every constitution does that. How to distribute it. Constitutions will usually prescribe elections as the way in which we distribute it. A constitution that suffers from a sustainability deficit is that constitution that is unable to distribute those things through the elections and through the rules fairly and adequately. What am I talking about? Ghana's constitution suffers that difficulty because the whole constitution brings us to a winner-takes-all situation. That's the fundamental problem. Now, it's not a bad constitution. It has served us well because in the time it started, we needed a constitution that creates stability. So those articles that we put in that generate stability have served us for this purpose. So it's been a good constitution. The only reason why we need to amend critical aspect of it now is that there's a change in times. People wanted stability, which those provisions that I'm going to advocate should be changed, gave that stability. Stability is over. We have sustained it in terms of stability. Now, it needs to deliver those resources. Otherwise, what we're going to have is not a coup d'etat. It's something greater than a coup d'etat. Because as Professor Jimabwedi said, the survey shows from Afrobarometer that Ghanaians don't like a coup d'etat.
Okay.
I'm ending. So you're going to have an announcement that will look like Rawlins's announcement in 81.
Right.
Where he said, I have not come to do a coup d'etat.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Right, so let's start with, his question was rather long, so let's start with Mr. Judge Sano and then we'll come to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. There's always general principles that come to a discussion like this. So my man, the priest with the collar, started, sorry, I don't know your name, Christian Council of Ghana, talked about ethics. But again, ethics have to be...
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.
Has Christianity always been one of the religions in the world to you?
Oh, hallelujah. Christianity is not a religion, neither is it a joining of a church and doing the Christian things like praying and giving and so on. Hallelujah. Christianity is the outworking of God's own kind of life received into the spirit of a man. Whoa! This divine life in the heart of a man makes him righteous, keeps him healthy, divinely guided in life, prosperous and victorious. It gives you the ability to enjoy intimate fellowship with the Father and have dominion on this earth. Hallelujah.
Yes, in every generation on the earth, God sends special messengers with unique messages
Democracy has to be a redress of inequality. It is a tool in the hands of the powerless to contain and roll back power. That is how you achieve equality and so on. Otherwise, you get the kind of frustrations that we saw express itself in Washington, D.C. yesterday on Martin Luther King Day, when Mr. Trump is the kind of person who comes into power and so on and so forth. Because democracy doesn't delay.
Thank you so much.
With your boyfriend. Good evening, Ghana. We'll be back on Thursday. Good night.